The maintenance corridor of Station Gamma 7 was supposed to be empty at this hour. David had chosen the night shift specifically for the solitude, the quiet hum of machinery, his only companion as he worked through another routine inspection. 3 years on this remote trading outpost had taught him to appreciate the silence. Then came the sound of running feet. David looked up from his diagnostic panel just as a small figure crashed into him. He stumbled backward, catching himself against the wall as tiny hands gripped his maintenance uniform. The figure pressed against his back, trembling. "Please," a voice whispered. "Please hide me." David froze. The station housed dozens of species, but something about this voice made his chest tighten. He slowly turned his head and found himself looking down at a child. She couldn't have been more than 8 or 9 in human years, with large golden eyes that gleamed in the dim corridor lighting. Her skin held a faint blue luminescence, and delicate patterns traced along her arms like living constellations. She was Viridian, one of the rarest species in known space. "Kid, what are you?" Heavy footsteps echoed down the corridor. The girl's grip tightened, her whole body shaking now. David made a split-second decision. He stepped back, positioning himself so his large frame completely blocked the child from view, and returned his attention to the diagnostic panel as if nothing had happened. 2 figures rounded the corner. Traders, by the look of their mismatched armor and the scanner devices hanging from their belts. One was Corthan, reptilian, and massive. The other human, thin and sharp-eyed. "You see a kid run through here?" The human demanded. David didn't look up. "Been here alone for 2 hours. Saw nothing." The Corthan hissed, its forked tongue tasting the air. "Sensors detected movement in this sector." "Sensors detect lots of movement," David replied, gesturing at the pipes overhead. "Coolant systems cycle every 40 minutes. Creates heat signatures. Check the logs." The human trader's eyes narrowed, but his companion was already moving toward the next junction. "Come on, she can't have gone far. Little thing doesn't even understand how stations work." Their footsteps faded. David waited a full minute before speaking. "They're gone." The girl didn't move. David slowly turned to find her pressed against the wall, those golden eyes filled with terror, so profound it made his stomach turn. He'd seen fear before, but this was something else. This was the look of someone who knew exactly what waited if she was caught. "Hey," he said softly, crouching to her level. "I'm David. What's your name?" She stared at him, then whispered, "Lyra." "Okay, Lyra. Can you tell me what's happening?" Her lower lip trembled. "They bought me. From the collectors. I heard them talking. They're taking me to the outer rim. To the factories." David's blood went cold. He knew about the factories. Everyone did, though most pretended ignorance. Viridians possessed a unique biology that made them invaluable for certain manufacturing processes. Their cellular structure could withstand radiation that would kill most species. They could work in environments that required expensive shielding or automation, but only the young ones. Only before their bodies finished developing. The factories bought Viridian children and worked them until their biology changed, until the radiation finally poisoned them beyond usefulness. The mortality rate was 98% before age 15. It was legal, technically. The Viridian homeworld had collapsed decades ago, its survivors scattered. Children without families, without documentation, fell through the cracks of galactic law. And the factories always needed workers. "How long have you been with them?" David asked. 3 days. Since the collection station at Alpha Centauri. There were others, but they separated us. Her voice cracked. "My brother. He tried to fight. They hurt him." David stood up, his mind racing. Station protocols were clear. Registered traders had rights. Unregistered children had none. If he reported this, station security would return Lyra to her legal owners. If he helped her escape, he'd lose his job, face criminal charges, possibly imprisonment. He thought about his apartment back on Earth, his quiet life, the retirement savings he'd built over 3 years of lonely shifts. Then he looked at Lyra's face. "Come with me," he said. He led her through maintenance, passages that most station personnel didn't know existed. David had mapped every corridor during his first year, partly from boredom, partly from habit. Old military training died hard. His quarters were small but secure. He locked the door and pulled the privacy shutters. "You'll be safe here for now," he said. "But we need a plan." Lyra sat on his bunk, looking impossibly small. "Why are you helping me?" David pulled up a chair and sat down heavily. "You know what? I'm not entirely sure. But I know I can't hand you back to them. You'll get in trouble, probably. They'll find me eventually. The station's not that big." David nodded slowly. She was right. Station Gamma 7 serviced maybe 300 permanent residents and twice that in rotating traders. Security scans would eventually flag an unregistered biosignature in crew quarters, unless she wasn't unregistered. "How good are you at pretending?" he asked. Lyra tilted her head. "What do you mean?" "The station database tracks all residents, but there's a lag in verification for family transfers. If I filed adoption papers tonight, claimed you arrived with me on the last transport, it would take at least 2 weeks for central administration to process and verify. 2 weeks isn't long enough." "No," David agreed, "but there's a diplomatic vessel scheduled to dock here in 10 days, headed to the Viridian sanctuary worlds in the Andromeda sector. If we could get you on that ship, they check manifests." "I don't have papers." David smiled grimly. "That's where my friend Tom comes in. He works in documentation, owes me a favor, a big one. The plan was insane. It required forging identity documents, bribing at least 2 security officers, and convincing a diplomatic crew to take on an undocumented passenger. The chances of success were maybe 30%, but 30% was better than 0. Over the next week, David's life became a careful dance of deception. He filed the adoption papers, creating a false trail of documentation that would satisfy casual inspection. Tom came through with a temporary identity chip, programmed with just enough authentic verification codes to pass basic scans. The traders searched the station methodically, but David's maintenance credentials gave him access to sensor blind spots and timing schedules. Lyra became a ghost, moving through the station's hidden spaces, staying 1 step ahead of detection. During those long nights, she told him about her home, about parents she barely remembered, about her brother, who'd promised to protect her until his last breath, about the collectors who'd found them in an abandoned colony, promises of safety turning to chains. "You remind me of him," she said quietly one evening. "My brother. He used to say that good people still existed, that someone would help us." David felt something crack inside his chest. "I'm not particularly good, kid. I'm just stubborn. That's the same thing sometimes." The diplomatic vessel arrived on schedule. Commander Hayes of the Viridian Protection Fleet was a stern woman with silver hair and eyes that had seen too much tragedy. She listened to David's story without interruption. "You understand this is highly irregular," she said finally. "Yes, ma'am. You're asking me to smuggle an undocumented child onto a diplomatic vessel. The political fallout could be significant." "Yes, ma'am." Hayes looked at Lyra, who stood beside David's chair, that same trembling fear in her golden eyes. The commander's expression softened almost imperceptibly. "How many others?" she asked quietly. "I'm sorry? How many other children are on this station? In situations like hers?" David swallowed hard. I don't know. Maybe dozens. Maybe hundreds passing through. Hayes nodded slowly. Then you chose to save one. It's all I could do. The commander stood. That's more than most people manage. She'll have a place on my ship. But you need to understand the consequences. Those traitors will figure out what happened. They'll come after you. I know. You're throwing away your career. Possibly your freedom. I know that too. Hayes studied him for a long moment, then extended her hand. Then you're a fool, David, but you're the right kind of fool. The ship departed 6 hours later. David stood in the observation deck, watching the vessel's engines flare bright against the black. Lyra had hugged him before leaving, those small arms wrapped tight around his waist. "Thank you," she'd whispered. "Thank you for being brave." But David didn't feel brave. He felt terrified. The station authorities would have questions soon. The traders would file complaints. His carefully ordered life was about to collapse. Yet as he watched that ship carry Lyra toward safety, toward the sanctuary worlds where Viridian children could grow up without fear, he felt something else too. He felt like maybe, just maybe, he'd finally done something that mattered. The stars stretched endlessly beyond the viewport, cold and indifferent. But somewhere in that vast darkness, one small light was heading toward Hope Dot, and that, David thought, was enough.